Hey guys, welcome and welcome back to my channel. This is Jowins Fashion Ville. Today I'll be explaining to you guys how I made a corset blouse with caged peplum. It's a very easy blouse to recreate if you put your mind to it. So guys, if this is what you're looking for, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like the video if you find it so helpful, share, and don't forget to drop a comment. So guys, let's get started, okay? So guys, I'll simply go ahead to take the vertical measurement from the shoulder line, and then the first measurement to take note of is the chest line. So I'll simply go ahead to mark the chest line from the shoulder line. Okay, so go ahead and take that measurement, and then I'll simply go ahead and draw a straight line as you can see me doing. Okay, so the next measurement to take note of is the bust line. So I'll go ahead and mark my bust measurement on my pattern paper, and I'll simply go ahead to draw a straight line as you can see me doing as well. The next measurement is the under bust line, so simply do the same as you have done in the previous. Then I'll simply go ahead to draw a straight line. Okay, so I'll label it with the alphabet U as indicating the under bust. Okay, so the next measurement guys is the waist line. So I'll simply place my waist measurements on my pattern paper, and then I'll draw a straight line indicating it as the letter W. Okay, so the next measurement is the full length of the blouse. So go ahead and determine the full length of your own blouse. For me, I have 24 inches. Okay, so the next thing I simply did was to draft my neckline, which is the width of 4 by 4.5 inches and a depth of 3 inches. Okay, so I'll go ahead and place my shoulder measurement, since I have my pattern on full, which is half my shoulder measurement, then 1 inch for the shoulder slant. Okay, so I simply went ahead to establish the armhole on the chest line, and then I simply placed the quarter of my bust circumference on the chest line to enable me draft my armhole curve. Okay, so guys, this is the midpoint of the line, and then from that point I'll go in by half an inch as you can see me doing, and then I'll go ahead to establish the armhole curve. Okay guys, so we're good there. The next thing I'll simply do is to establish my half bust bam, which is the nipple to nipple measurement. So go ahead and place half of your half measurement of your nipple to nipple on your pattern paper, which is your half bust band. For me, I have 8 divided by 2 give me 4, and then I established the midpoint of my shoulder seam, and then I connected it down to the bust point. This will be very important for the over bust contouring. Okay, so on the bust line I went out by 1/4 of an inch. You could do half an inch, indicating the distance between one bust to the other, and then I went up by 1 inch to enable me establish my neckline. Okay, so to do this I just simply use the curvy part of my French curve to create a sweetheart neckline. I initially wanted something more curvier than this, but well, along the line this one became okay. At least I got the result I wanted. Okay, so having done that, what I'll simply do is to draft my yoke after establishing the neckline. So I will just use the curvy part of my French curve as well to create a part of this neckline, which is the yoke. Okay, so I'll go ahead and label it as using the letter Y. Okay, so that we don't get things all mixed up. So this is the yoke. Okay, so I'll go ahead and contour the over bust and the under bust. So on the bust line I went above and below by half an inch, and for the over bust contouring I used 1/4 of an inch on both sides, which is 3/4 inch on both sides. Okay, so I will just blend it like this down to the bust point. Okay, the 0.5 inch mark above the bust point as shown here. Okay, so guys, this is okay. Okay, so I'll simply go ahead to contour the under bust. Okay, so for the under bust contouring, I went towards the side and center front by 1 inch. Okay, so 1 inch is good. I'll simply transfer this 1 inch dart intake on the waistline and then on the full length of the blouse. Okay, then I'll simply go ahead and draw a straight line with my pattern master or your meter rule if you have one. Okay, so I'll just connect the points together with a straight line. Okay, and then I'll connect the under bust to the bust point. Okay, so I'll use the curvy part of my pattern master to create that curve, okay, to enable me draft my corset cup. Okay guys, so having done this, I'll simply connect these 2 points together. Okay, I'll simply use the curvy part. You all know that a cup, a corset cup or our bra cup, it's curvy at the end, so I'll just create that curve there, and then I will transfer the radius of my under bust to the other side. So the radius is 3.5 inches, and then I'll add 0.5 inches. Okay, so it depends on the bust size of your client. You could add 1/4 inch or 1 inch so that the bust can sit conveniently in the bra cup. Okay, so I'll go ahead and establish a curve. I'll link that point together and then use the curvy part to draw a curve like so. Okay, so guys, we're good here. Okay, so the next thing to simply do is to take our horizontal measurement. Okay, so I'll transfer the dart intake of 1.5 inches on the chest line plus 1.5 inch seam allowance. Okay, so I'll simply do the same on the under bust. After marking the quarter of my under bust, I'll mark the dart intake plus the seam allowance. I'll do the same on the waistline, quarter of my waist circumference plus the dart intake and then the seam allowance as well. Okay, then I'll go ahead to connect this point together. Okay guys, so having done that, we'll simply do the same for the full length. You place, since this particular area is around the hip, you take the measurements of the hip area and then mark the quarter of your hip plus your dart intake and the seam allowance. Then I'll go ahead and connect. Okay guys, so having done that, I went ahead to cut out the excess pattern paper, but I did not alter the neckline because I'll be using this pattern to draft the back pattern as well. Okay, so I have a pattern paper for the back pattern with the zip allowance. Okay, but before drafting the back pattern, I will simply label the panels on the front panel. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So these are the panels we have for the front panel. So I'll simply place this on the back pattern and then I'll go ahead to highlight this or trace out the lines for the front pattern on this fresh pattern paper. So guys, having done that, I'll go ahead and establish the neckline. Okay, so I came in by 2 inches and the neck width remained constant, which is 4.5 inches. Okay, so you can go ahead and draft a neckline of your choice. Initially I wanted a deeper neckline, but finally I resolved to just having this neckline depth of 2 inches. You could go as deep as 7 inches or 6 inches, so it depends on what you want. So what I'll simply do next is to eliminate the dart intake for the front pattern on the back, since we won't be needing the dart intake for the back pattern. So remember that the dart intake on the chest line is 1.5, the under bust is 2 and the full length is 2 inches. So I'll just connect these 2 points or connect the points together as you can see me doing. Okay guys, then I'll go ahead and shade this area. Okay, so this is the dart intake. We won't be having any need for this. Okay, so I'll simply go ahead and cut out the excess pattern paper, and then we'll be left with the required pattern for the back. So guys, this is it. Okay, we have our the front and the back panel. So guys, I'll just simply go ahead and blend this point. Okay, just blend it properly, and then I'll cut out the panels for the front since we're done drafting the back pattern. I meant to say. Okay, so I'll just separate the panels. Okay, as you can see me doing. So guys, this is what we have. Okay, we have our front and back panel well established on the working table. Okay, so I'll go ahead and blend the bra cup. You can see that one part of the cup seems to be longer. 3 is kind of longer than 2, and this is going to affect the bra cup, so there will be need for us to blend to avoid gaping. So I just placed this cup on a fresh pattern paper, and I'll go ahead to blend it in such a way that it would match up. Okay, 2 will match up with 3. Okay, and you can see this is what we have, so I'll just draft it properly. Okay, so I'll simply go ahead to use the paper tape to secure it. Okay, so I'll just secure this with the paper tape, and then I'll cut it out with my scissors. Okay, okay guys, so this is better compared to what we had before. You can see that it's well matched and it's better. Okay, so when we cut this on our fabric, we'll be rest assured for a good outcome. Okay, so what I simply did was to link the panel 4 and 5 together to close up the dart to enable me create the basque effect for our side peplum. So that right there on the full length, I went out by 1.5 inch. So on fold we have 1.5, on a spread it should be about 3 inches. So I'll just create this curve to the waistline. Okay, okay, so guys, even though mine is not directly on the waistline, but I will simply advise that you place it on the waistline. This is not a standard. It just depends on what you want. You could just go ahead to just place it, link it up straight to the waistline, or you could just work with what I have here. So whichever one is fine. Okay, so guys, this is what we have, and I used the front pattern to cut out the back as well. So what I simply did was to use this pattern to cut out the main fabric. So you can see what we have here. This is the yoke, and I went ahead to use my masking tape to label all the panels so that we don't get it all mixed up. So as a beginner, I would advise that you do the same, and I used a fusible interfacing for the back cup, basically the thick paper stay, and I doubled it because I won't be using a bra cup for this corset. Okay, and for the other part of the main fabric, I used an air stay for it. Okay guys, so by the time we join, we should be expecting something like this. Okay, so this is also the back panel as well, and I used an interfacing for it as well. Okay, yeah, so guys, we're good here. So I also went ahead to use the same pattern to cut out the lining for the front and the back panel. So you can as well use an interfacing for the lining, but this is just a tutorial, so I won't be having any need for it. Okay guys, so I've actually assembled one of the back cup, and this is the outcome, and you can see how neat and good it's looking already. So I'll simply go ahead to join the other cup. Okay, so I'll be stitching it with my machine so that we'll see the outcome of the cup after stitching. Okay, so I'll simply go ahead and run my stitch as you can see me doing. So after stitching, I went ahead to notch, and then after notching the seam, I just turned it out, and then this is the outcome. Okay, so on the front panel as well, I went ahead to place my bias tape like this. You can see this is my preferred design, so you can actually do yours. And then I went ahead to insert the plastic boning inside of it. Okay, so ensure that you leave at least half an inch above and beneath when inserting your boning, so that it won't affect your seam allowance for attaching the cup and the side peplum. Okay, so after inserting the boning, I actually give this a good press, and you can see how relaxed it is. It's no longer curvy. Okay, so what I'll simply do next is to attach the bra cup. Okay, have in mind that we have seam allowance for attaching the bra cup, which is half an inch round that area. Okay, so I'll simply go ahead and attach the bra cup. Okay, so you can see guys, I've attached the bra cup, and you can see how neat it's looking already. So what I'll simply do next is to attach the yoke, and have in mind that the yoke is not directly placed on the center front. So from that center front, I went outwards by 1.5 inches. Okay, from the bra cup itself, I went out by 1.5 inches, and then I went ahead to place this yoke directly from the point of the 1.5 inches towards the armhole. So I'll secure this with a pin, and then I'll run my stitch. Okay, so guys, this is the outcome of what we just did, and you can see that I've attached one part of the yoke. So I'll simply go ahead and attach the other side. So still the same thing, just like I did for the previous. From that corset cup, I'll go up by 1.5 inches. Okay, so I'll use my tailor's chalk to highlight that point, 1.5 inches. From that point, I'll place the yoke, and then I'll run my stitch. Okay, so it's not a difficult task, it's just something that is as easy as anything. Okay, so I'll just join this, and then we're good here. Okay, so guys, haven't done this, this is what we have. Okay, I simply did the same for the lining. Okay, I assembled the panels together just like I did for the main fabric. So I'll simply go ahead to turn this up. I'll close up the neckline. Okay, so I'll close up the neckline, and then the armhole, because I'll be attaching a sleeve, so from that point I'll come down by 4.5 inches there, and then I will notch that point. Okay, because the point where I'll attach the sleeve, I won't be closing it up. I will simply close other areas excluding that point for the sleeve attachment, and excluding the part for the basque where I'll be attaching this side. I won't close this point up, but every other area I'll simply close it up and turn it up. Okay, so I'll also close up the back panel with the lining, but basically for now just the neckline. Okay, so guys, I've closed up the front panel and this is what we have. You can see the area where I'll be attaching the sleeve. Okay, where I notched, I didn't close it up, but I closed every other area. Okay, so for this point I will just turn it up, I'll turn it in, and then I'll top stitch. Okay, so guys, this is what we have here. Okay, so guys, what I'll simply do next is to join the shoulders together. Okay, so I'll just link up the shoulder of the front panel with the shoulders of the back panel. Okay, so guys, right sides facing each other, I will just simply place this way. Yeah. Okay, so to link up the shoulder, what I'll simply do is to open up, separate the lining from the main fabric, as you can see what I'm doing. So I'll just place it this way. Okay, and then I'll use the lining to wrap it up. Okay, so I'll simply use my pin to secure the shoulder, as you can see me doing. Okay guys, so having done that, I'll just place this way to enable me close up the sides for the back panel. What I'll simply do is to also mark the 4.5 inches mark, and then I'll notch it. Okay, so after closing up the shoulder, I'll just simply run my stitch, utilize this opportunity to also close up the sides for the back panel as well. So this is it. It's not a very difficult task, and if you have your questions, I'll be in the comment section to address all of your questions to make it very easy to understand. Okay, if you permit me to. So this is it. I've linked up the front and the back. The next thing to do is to close up the sides, to join the sides of the front and the back panel. But before doing this, make sure you secure your zip allowance so that you don't include it in the measurement. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take the necessary measurement, which is the bust and the under bust. Then I'll go ahead and take the measurement of this basque curve. I have 20 inches divided by 2 gave me 10. Okay, so I'll place my piece of fabric on fold to be able to enable me draft out the peplum, and then I'm trying to ascertain the measurement of the fold. So I'll place it on a fold like this, as if you want to cut out a full flare. Or then I'll simply go ahead to take the measurement of my basque curve, which is 10 inches on fold. So guys, the next thing to do is to reduce the length of this side, this particular area, reduce it to my required measurement. So I took note, I reduced it to 8.5 inches because I wouldn't want it to be too long. Okay, I don't want a very long peplum. Okay, so I went ahead to reduce that point by 8.5, and right here I'm trying to blend it properly to, to be uniform, to make it uniform. Okay, because if you make it 10 inches, 10 by 10 inches, it will be too long for a side peplum. But 8.5, 9 inches, 7 inches is okay, it's moderate. Okay, so I went ahead to place this pattern, this piece of pattern I drafted for my side peplum on my lining to cut out the lining for it. So this is exactly what I am doing. Then I'll go ahead and open it up. Have in mind that I cut the two sides together, so I will split this up, and one will be for each side. Okay, so I'll split up the main fabric, and I'll also split up the lining as well. Okay, so guys, this is what we have. Okay, we have the pattern for the main fabric. So this is the lining and the main fabric. I'll be using the lining to turn it up. Okay, so guys, what I'll simply do next is to use the fusible interfacing for this piece of fabric. So I still use the paper stay, the thick paper stay, for the main fabric and the lining as well. Okay, know that is a structured detail, so we need something thick. Okay, so I used my bias tape for my required design. So this is the pattern I chose. You could go ahead to run your bias around the edge to give a better result. So but this was also okay, so I went ahead to insert my boning. Okay, but I later realized that the boning I inserted kind of gave it a curve inward, and I needed a curve outward. Okay, so I later turned the boning to the other side to give me that outward curve that I want. I'm sure you get to see it much later after this stage. Okay, so you can see that I'm inserting my boning in this direction and it's curving inward instead of outward. So just turn it, flip it the other way to give you that outward curve. I hope you understand, and if you don't understand, please ask questions for more clarity. I'll be humble to address it. Okay, so yeah, so this is exactly what I'm saying. You can see that it's curved outwards. Okay, so but in this particular area I didn't set any boning, just the other part. Okay, so that straight line is just a plain bias without boning. So what I'll simply do next is to attach this side peplum to the dress. Okay, so guys, this is what we have. I will just go ahead and attach it. Okay, so you can go ahead and run your bias down there, round the curve, and insert your boning round. Okay, but this is also fine. If you choose this method, it's okay. If you choose to run your bias round the edge, it's still fine. So I'll just go ahead and attach this peplum to the curve, and the same allowance for it is 1/2 inch. So I'll just place this round and then we're good. Okay, and by the time I place it, you see the structure standing. Okay, you see it standing in this direction. Okay, so guys, we're good here. So what I'll simply do next is to attach the sleeve. I have a detailed tutorial. I'll be uploading a detailed tutorial on how to make a structured sleeve, and the link will be in the description box. It's going to be a very detailed and interesting tutorial. Please kindly check it out. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pleat this sleeve on that the area where I notched on the armhole. Okay, remember that I notched I left a place on the armhole. I notched the place where I'll be attaching this sleeve. So I went ahead to attach the sleeve, and after attaching the sleeve, you can use an overlocker to conceal the rough edges. Okay, so this is what we have for the sleeve, and you can see how beautiful the sleeve is. Like I said, I have a detailed tutorial on this. So guys, this is the final look of our dress after giving it a good press, and you can see the outcome so good. If you find it so helpful, please kindly subscribe to our channel and then like the video. Please like the video, drop your comments and let me know what you think. Thank you so much.